Well, hello. What an exciting time this is. And I would like to welcome you to a session where we're going to talk to people who actually live the um, in the environment of a New Earth community, and they're going to share with you, hopefully, just what that means for them. And so, Sovereign has joined us because he, of course, would love to hear about what we're doing here. And the reason for it is because Sovereign and I talked last week about the seeds of humanity, and the seeds of humanity being us, and that the innate within us, that each one of us has a seed, and how many people live their whole life and never ever get to experience their innate creativity in its full expression, and they have a lifetime of unfulfillment. And one of the joys that I see in the community that is the Connected Soul New Earth community here in Melbourne, on the peninsula, is that I'm watching these seeds actually germinate and sprout and become these amazingly alive people that are now becoming fulfilled. And the reason for asking them to come forward and speak is so that anyone who's watching can do this. This is, as they say, it's not rocket science. It's just, are you willing? Are you willing to walk away from the matrix? And are you willing to step into a different way of living where love drives everything? And it's not just the I love you, it's the passion of creation, of knowing that within each one of us there is something special that is asking to be exposed and delivered and placed in service. So I'm going to actually, first of all, here we are. We have Shay joining us, which is just fantastic because to have both Shay and Sovereign together is a joy, but also because these are two people who are really active in creating a new earth from different perspectives. And I am going to actually ask them to put in the questions and to see what they would like to know from Damian and Linda. And maybe I will start off with asking Sovereign to begin by perhaps bringing forth what is it that he would like to know that is special about being actively involved in this community.
So great. So nice to be here with you, Damian and Linda. And Shay will be joining us shortly. So wonderful. I've been following Yvonne now, well, since we connected through the Brave New Life community. And I've been just so fond of her vavor, her determination, and her commitment to it takes something right every day. That's not something that everybody does. And had the fortunate opportunity to relate on many occasions with her and go into depth to kind of uncover the ways, the means, the hows, and the New Earth community. To me, on the peninsula, seemed to be a bit more of a conversation than something really happening. But the only way that something's really going to happen is that you're going to have that conversation. I'm just really curious from both of you how you came into awareness that there was such a thing as this New Earth community. And maybe you've known Yvonne for a long time, maybe not. But then what is it in you that feels to bring out this, like, I'm a yes to this and I want to see this through. I want to be on this journey. Maybe we'll start with Linda if you want to.
All right. Hi, Shay. Hi, Sovereign. I met Yvonne a few months ago, maybe October, November, and was connected through a friend who never came again. And that was her purpose, was to connect me. And I've found that there was so much love and acceptance, no matter who you are or what you do, or your external being, the judgments that you put on yourself. And it was just so wonderful, and the energy that everybody shared. And I feel that growing within me now, that I can accept myself. And I initially went to a session with Yvonne because I felt stuck, and now it's unleashed all these wonderful, wonderful feelings, wonderful experiences. I look at things differently. Life has so much more meaning, and the Connect to Soul New Earth community is, for me, it's an amazing group to be a part of, and to help create, something more wonderful moving forward. With the community hub that we've been creating and providing classes where I get to express myself and share that expression with other people, and assist them in learning to express themselves through art that's not in a structured format, that is organic. And it's just been an amazing journey. And yes, I want to be a part of it, and yes, I'm excited to help create and build on to what Yvonne has been doing for such a long time. And it's exciting. I feel excitement in my life every day. Just something to look forward to every week, to meeting with everybody. And and that sets me up for the whole week. It's just grand.
So great, Linda. Thank you for sharing. And I hear there's a lot of internal kind of transforming that has occurred, and that's a natural part of coming into the flow, I suppose, with those people that are operating in a different frequency. In that frequency of you are welcome. All of you is welcome. Damian, I'm really curious, as a man, as a doer, as a someone who probably has learned along the way on a journey through life that with hard work you make progress. At some point there may have been a little phase of that. How do you see this opportunity, but this space and this conversation around a new earth and a community happening in your lifespan, and what makes it for you so attractive to lean your strengths into it?
Well, thanks, Sovereign. It's I suppose one big thing is our New Earth community gives me a contrast to look at, a contrast from a world that I choose not to live in anymore, and a world that is totally possible, that is totally aligned with the world that I want to live in, that I choose to live in. So several years ago, Yvonne got me to do a blueprint for my life and for the world that I wanted to live in. And that world was one of unconditional love, a world that totally supported me for my highest good, my growth, transformation. And this New Earth community is exactly that. And it's an energetic, organic, growing community. When we meet each week, there's just this joyous celebration of life and what we're creating, and we are consciously creating this. Really, I feel like it's heaven on earth.
Wow.
And we have a quite a visible impact on the people around us when we meet for these breakfasts. People can't help but be drawn to the energy, because there's just this joy. There's a hell of a lot of hugging goes on, and the conversation is just one of absolute excitement. The energy is amazing, and by the end of the morning, and it's a long morning, I think I'm going to have to start putting aside about an hour and a half to say goodbye, because they are the longest goodbyes. As you get around, the conversations that strike up, it just, it's you just don't want to leave. It's lovely, and we find that even the staff in the establishments where we have these get-togethers, they're visibly moved, and they're actually quite drawn to us as well. So, you know, it's the contrast between that feeling and my old world, which was, you know, a little bit corporate. I was a sales manager for 21 years and caught up in this, and I'll call it a matrix. This unreal illusion that I didn't realize. It just felt so heavy energetically. It was heavy. It really, I felt like I wasn't living, and I only became aware of that when I did start living, which was through the New Earth Community group, starting to live my truth and live my passions and gifts and offer those, and to be totally supported by the rest of the group in those endeavors. So, and I think we're all, many of us are growing in that direction, where I think our gifts and our passions really just become a platform for us to shine our light and share our light. And that's definitely what's happening there. There is a lot of light bouncing around when we all get together, that's for sure.
Wow, Damian, that is so great. Yvonne, thank you for bringing us all together. It's so beautiful to hear, you know, what is available, and how contagious it actually is to others. It's palpable, the change in the frequency, and this is something that Yvonne and I have spoken about a lot. I'm going to give it back to you, Yvonne. I know that Shay is here, founder of Earth Heroes TV, and I'm just so stoked to be joined by him yet again, and then being here with you all. It's so wonderful, and thank you both, Linda and Damian, for stepping into yourself and following that inner pulse, because quite frankly, for a lot of people, it seems all real easy once you're there, but to break out of that mold and to actually realize that you live in an illusionary matrix, it takes courage to move through that. So I honor you for taking those steps and finding that light from within that you then get to share out through your gifts. So beautiful.
Thanks, Sob. Look, the thing that I really want to specify here is that within that, we talked last week about the right environment for people to be able to grow. And I, of course, am very fortunate because I sit back and grow. And what I've seen, particularly in Linda, who's just joined us not that long ago, and I can see her grow every day. I see her grow. More of her authentic self is able to come out, and so that means that this environment of this that we're creating, and we talked about companion planting last week, and I just love that, because that is really what the community is about. And one of the things that Damian hasn't really shared is that he is a yoga master extraordinaire, and who's come from being a sales manager of a huge plumbing corporation to becoming this beautiful yoga master. And I call him a master because it's all soul based, and for him to have let go of what this comfort zone of having an income, and to step out and within the community, again, I watch how he's becoming more and more confident, and finds the support and the guidance within them. So I'd love to hand it over to Shay, because thank you for sharing it, and you always have the most wonderful questions, the way you question things. So go for it, Shay.
Awesome. Thanks, Yvonne, Sovereign, and lovely to meet you, Damian and Linda. It's a great conversation to have around the New Earth communities. And yeah, I've just been inspired by Yvonne's life, particularly, just so much consistency that she shows up for community and others, and really meeting that need of contribution. And what I'm hearing in Linda and Damian's story is this beautiful testimony of growth, going on this journey of growing and evolving and changing and stepping into your power, which is fantastic. And to do that in a community where we have the opportunity to give back and contribute and be of service to our fellow family, our fellow friends, and our community, which is, as Linda had mentioned, just non-judgmental and really open, accepting and loving, regardless of where we come from in our lives. And having this sense of light that is piercing onto the planet right now, and realizing that, these greater cosmological forces that we're actively engaged in and we're a part of, such as, the great year cycle, which is literally bringing more light onto this earth. We're seeing that through our own physical embodiment and our physical manifestation. And it's where these communities are popping up all over the world, in fact. And what I love about what Yvonne has created is stepping up and actually creating the container for the opportunity for that transformation to take place. And what I love is that there's this willingness, is something Sovereign talks on a lot, around just enabling the will to come in and be a part of that system, plug into that system of that community. And so Damian, Linda, I'm curious to hear, moving forward, maybe we'll start with the ladies first. Linda, if you wanted to share first on, because you kind of spoke to the past, where you've come from, what you've done, and shifting out of that matrix into this new community or ecosystem of way of being, of living, of interacting with others. What does it look like moving forward to expand that, capacity and be ripples into, the greater consciousness of man or woman as well? And how can we be of support? How can we be of service? How can we just open our arms more to those people who are in that state of transition or change, or moving from the old into the new? What does that look like? It sounds like you're really into the art piece, and I'd be curious, how you feel you're stepping up in your life to give back more.
Thanks, Shay. Well, it's about, as Damian was saying, about working in the matrix and having a job, and being, because you're what you knew of yourself was, I knew of myself, I was an empath, I did a caring role. And then realizing that when that comes with compliance of things that go against your soul, your higher self, and you choose to move out of that. And then I go, well, how do I move from that and move into the new earth way? How do I raise my vibration? And initially it gets really daunting, because people go, raise your vibration. You go, but how? And how do I do that? And what does it entail? And how can I, when I'm so swamped by the day-to-day stuff? And the thing I drew on was the very small things that bring you joy, that a memory that can't be taken from you. Looking outside at nature when you're driving, look at the clouds and have a gratitude and appreciation for everything around you. And then that started to raise my vibration, and listening to music in the car and singing, and, and it's those sort of things that expand, because, and then when you appreciate the little things, and it doesn't take much for you to have that vibration risen as a result of appreciating that small thing in life. And how do we spread that? Well, I currently deliver food to the masses. That's my current occupation. And when I go out and I'm in the community and in, these places, picking up food or delivering food and meeting people, it's the light that you shine. It's the energy that you give. I sat on when I was out on my own shopping, and then I sat down on a seat in the shopping centre. A gentleman sat on the edge of the seat, never spoke or nothing. And I felt he was sitting there because my energy was great, and it felt nice to just sit there and not have to speak, but to absorb that energy that, you know, that I was giving off, because I feel my light expands, and it's explained in the Taurus that when you have that love feeling within, it expands, and it can reach so much more. You know, I ask for that every night when I go out to do my deliveries. I ask that I touch, you know, people and bring them joy and love and spark that in them in some way. And it's just by living your truth and showing people that this is how it's done. You know, it's you can make choices for your higher self. You can make choices to move forward and to expand your own true authentic self. And yeah, I do it with creativity. However, it's also about having gratitude for everything, you know, in spite of these times, you know, that are very, can be challenging. It's about, you know, who am I? I remember when Yvonne asked me, who are you? I go, I'm Linda, what? But, you know, that we're all expressions, we're all beautiful expressions of creation, and to acknowledge that, you know, and to have no judgment based on that. That's the very thing. A lot of us grow up with self-criticism and self-judgment, and learning that, you know, moving forward, there's no room for that, because we need to be accepting of ourselves and loving ourselves, so that we can in turn, you know, spread that feeling and share that with others. And as for the New Earth Community Breakfast, it's the only human contact I get all week with the hugs, and they're just so amazing, and so much can be spoken in every hug without a word, you know. And I really heard that on Monday I was hugging someone and they laughed the whole time, and I felt great to be able to give that to that person, because I felt she needed it. But it was just a great experience, you know, and it's just holding on to those little bits of joy that raise our vibration and help us to see things for what they can be.
I think what Linda really is saying, and what we've observed, and Damian certainly will agree with me, that ever since she's joined the community, it's like, and she's doing this, she is a light. She doesn't have to do anything, you know. Linda is a light, and when she came to us, she had a really poor self-image, and you could tell energetically that she was daunted by having walked away from the matrix. But that's what we talked about last week. When you plant the seed in the right soil, then you see this beautiful tree grow. And I'm watching every week. I see more of Linda out there, and she's forgotten about her self-image. She just wants to light everybody's fire. And that's, you know, when you say, Shay, what do you see, how is that going to expand? And that's all she needs to do. And however she's going to express that on top of that, or that's fine, that's a bonus. It's who she is becoming and how she shines that light out all the time. That is, you know, that's what I see in her, and that is what this community offers her, the safety to do.
100%. And I've opened my home as a result to welcome anyone. I call it the soulful self space. So anyone in the community can come around and just sit. You know, people have commented how it feels so nice in my home. And I'm like, yeah, I open the doors and people are welcome to come and just sit and do nothing. There's no judgment of the self or others. You just come and be. You know, we can colour in, we can draw, we can just listen to music, talk, play an instrument, just whatever you feel like doing. And nobody has to be anything, because so many people get caught up in their own heads, you know, and they forget about their heart and what's in there and what it can provide us.
Thanks so much for sharing, Linda. I love it. Yeah, it's such a beautiful story and beautiful journey. And yeah, I definitely resonate with a lot that you were sharing there, and the importance of that, recognizing energy and radiating that energy to the world. Yes. so good. That's so beautiful. I love it. And Damian, I'm curious to hear more about your journey and moving forward, and particularly in relation to, you know, in this new state of being, which we're speaking to, of embracing life and following our passions and radiating our love and being active in the community. What does it take for us? And particularly looking back at these old, these very outdated systems that we're all agreeing, whether it's the economic system or what I would love to focus on and hear your perspective on, the educational system for younglings, this new way of being moving forward. How do we incorporate, a more potentially a restructuring of our educational systems that, cultivates an environment for younglings to also embody from an early age, this sense of belonging in community for the next generation, and not just our children's, but the 7 generations, let's say. What is that kind of, based on your experience and your journey into this community? How do we cultivate that as a people for the future generations?
Well, I'm not an expert on education systems, but I guess based on my life experience, I would say that our classical education systems are based on teaching people to conform to systems. It's a little bit like sticking someone in a concrete structure where they're stifled. They're not breathing oxygen, prana. They're not connecting with their life force, and actually, I think it makes people shrink from an early age. It confines them and restricts them, and so they become hesitant to really express themselves and express what their passions are. And passions, from my experience, passions are aligned with gifts, and our gifts are what we have. That's what the world needs from each and every one of us, is for us to be expressing our gifts and our passions. And in that way, we shine our light. So with children, we notice that as they go through the education system, they come out almost like robots. So education feels pretty heavy, really. It's, not a lot of people enjoyed going to school. I know I didn't. And sitting through classes was, extremely boring. And I think it's, it teaches people to basically to become something that they feel someone else is going to approve of, rather than becoming something that actually lights them up from within. So, how we go about that, well, there's probably people far better qualified than me, but the very first things would be to identify what the gifts and passions are. Passions and then gifts. So education needs to be much more intuitive, spontaneous almost. And in a way, you can't have a classical teacher trying to teach that way either. It really needs to be more and more people who are really soul connected and go on intuition and can respond in the right way to whether it be a child, student's needs, or anyone's needs. And that's the way I teach my my yoga classes, is through my teacher training. There's a structure, there's a class plan, and it progresses through, and you're encouraged to actually draw up your plan, and it'll be from one asana to the next, to into the next theme, and that's okay. But I found when I started teaching, you devise a plan, and then a completely different demographics of student would would walk in the door and you'd think, well, there goes that plan, and you have to be spontaneous. And I found the best classes I taught, and now I only teach this way, is totally intuitive. So not having a firm set plan, but rather going off the energy of the students that are coming in. Energy gives us so much feedback, and it's a much more natural and spontaneous way of responding and teaching. So, I guess we need some people who are really moving into that area, who can encourage kids to express themselves openly and honestly, and without fear of judgment and ridicule, because these systems actually, not only do they stifle the growth of an individual, but they become hotbeds of judgment, ridicule, bullying. Our school system is rife with bullying, and it's never changed. And schools have all these policies in place about anti-bullying, etc., yada yada yada, and it really doesn't make a difference, because they're trying to enforce a change from externally rather than encouraging change from within. And that change from within can only happen if children are encouraged to be themselves, and not to fear that if by being themselves they may become a target of ridicule or bullying or punishment. Yeah, that's how I see it headed. And it has to be, people teaching from the heart and connecting with each and every student and treating them as individuals. Otherwise they're churning out little robots, and no one is connecting with their individual gifts.
I love it, Damian. Thanks for sharing, brother. That's so good. Speaking right to the unspeakable. I love it. And it's so true. It's really, I totally agree with you, particularly with the structuring and the rigidness of these systems. I'm really keen to hear from Yvonne. We've got some people watching and tuning in on the live video now, asking some questions about this community to get really clear, what this community is all about, the intention of it, what is cultivated in this space. But before we do that, Yvonne, I want to just bump over to Sovereign, and particularly on this piece, like if that Damian was speaking to around children or humans, let's say recreating a new system. I've got a guy coming through in the comments. He's saying we need to start anew. And I know Sovereign loves this concept of a new way of being, a new way of living, a new way of educating children, a new way of relating to life. And based on the piece that Damian mentioned around, the polar opposite of being stuck in a square box for 10 hours a day for school or whatever it is, being out in nature, learning from observing, learning from the natural systems and cycles and seasons that we're very much a part of, and how that can impact not just our personal lives, but the way that we design our communities, the way that we live, and how is that such a significant, vital piece for human evolution to reconnect and plug back into this natural cycle. I'd love to hear your perspective on that, Sovereign.
Yeah, so great. I'm so inspired to be here. It's just listening to you both and just recognizing, like, wow, I've had the conversation with Yvonne around and hearing how great Brecky is. But it just feels to be such an honor to move into a next space and be in that space with you, where we get to see each other face to face and hear more of the who are those people that are joining. And it's just, it's so heartwarming for me. And it's been part of my quest, and Shay knows this, to really find the ways and the means that we can cultivate our understandings of what does work and what actually is supportive, and what that looks like, and how to bring that into being. And I know many people around the world in many different pockets that are living their expression of that. And usually that is in living learning environments where, yeah, of course, there is a structure, a building. We're not all just going to hang out in the forest and not have a roof over our heads. But nature is an integral part of the younglings being able to discover their own inner knowing. And I've been working with a beautiful lady friend, Marissa, who's also on Earth Heroes TV. If you haven't checked out the series on Through the Lens of Syntropy, she runs a program called Soul to Soil. And she has set up a program to bring the younglings from all these parents, because it got a bit wonky this past year with maybe not wanting to send your kid to school if it has to be double masked and injected and all sorts of other nonsense. And she really stepped into that space, but not from this traditional orientation. And of course, she's been a student of my course in syntropic agroforestry and the course in syntropy. And that's what I recognize is this nature-based understanding, but primarily the willingness to drop our own judgment, to drop the stories of what we think that we know, that have come from cult programming, that have come from industrial mentalities, that have come from the Matrix. If they weren't birthed from within, from a place of inspiration coming out of your heart, or coming out from the ethers where you're drawing it in, and you just have this epiphany and you have this insight and you feel like the goosebumps are running all over your skin. Now that is information coming to us that enlivens and that brings out inspiration, that effortlessly transmits to other people when we act also from that place in what we want to convey as information or as potential experience. And one of the things that I've really come to value, being a bit of a close-on witness to the Soul to Soil program, is that it's really about asking the children in any given situation. They are exploring water, or they're exploring the element of air, or they're exploring earth, or they are exploring fire. They are all being encouraged to find the answer within themselves. So, and it's not like, well, we got a curriculum, because this is the challenge that we've come out of with this whole westernized, segregative, and kind of looking for quantity and not quality. And so I am very familiar with the Australian education system, in particular what we're speaking around here, based on not direct personal experience, but being very up close to it. And it is no different than many other Western education systems. It's all training the student for the test to get the results so that the school will rank in the overall network of all the schools in a certain. And the funny thing is that, particularly in this country called Australia, it is just such an abomination to look at it, because if you see all these schools competing with each other pretty much for a higher standard or a higher rank in the overall measurements of which school is the best school to go to, the education system in Australia ranks like the 27th or something, or probably even less on the global scale. Of course, that's still in the same system, and it's still all centralized education coming out of bodies that are all linked to what has been set up many, many years ago, right after the Second World War in Europe. And that is where a lot of this structure is really being pushed from. And the way to undo that is to become curious again, and to become willing again to look at life through a different lens, through a new lens, and drop all that we have to accomplish, we have to achieve, we have to reach a goal. Learning doesn't necessarily function when it's goal orientated, because the discovery that can be made in the process of being on the journey, those discoveries will not be limited if there are goals set around it, unless the goals maybe are just really open and wide. And this has to do with what Damian spoke to, is the individual and the individual nature of individual children. Like, they're all being homogenized in the current system, and it has been set up that way to teach one thing to the whole group. And what it does, it takes out the uniqueness, and it takes out that we are each individually and innately, we've come into this world with a soul signature, and we have a natural attraction to a certain aspect. We actually come here with a purpose. And so to think that we could have outcomes when we study fire or when we study earth, they're all going to be the same, so that we all come to the same conclusion, kind of eradicates the uniqueness and the spirited nature of the individual child. And I think it's really relevant as people maybe step into wanting to navigate with younglings, is to really see it as such, that they're navigating with them, as opposed to seeing themselves as somebody who's older and therefore more knowledgeable and therefore knows what the curriculum is going to be about. It's all human damage. If all humans are all equal, why is it that in our current day world, it has been normalized that grown-ups can speak to younglings the way they would never speak to their friends or their loved one? And so there's a lot there that I see is all kind of cult programmed and has been cultured in a way to not appreciate the beautiful, gifted nature that each child comes in with. And it's unique to their own. It's unique to their soul signature. And yeah, if you do centralized government driven public schooling system operations, yeah, you can't tailor to the individuated, spirited nature of the individual child. I get that. But that's also why Australian education systems are ranked so poorly, and bullying is occurring and has never been really properly addressed, because they're not willing to actually look at the elephant in the room, because that would mess with everybody's fruity land. It would mess with all of their structured belief systems of how this is how the world works. This is how we're doing. You can't come around now after 200 years of us doing it this way to change things. Meanwhile, change is the only ever constant that is present here on the earth. And so people are teachers and school boards. I've seen it all. They're all holding on for dear life to just keep their own little world participation kind of stable, but they're not happy. But they're not willing to really go to those places within what it actually takes is to topple over that entire education system, just get rid of it, dissolve it altogether. But I feel that there is a process that is underway that has woken up a lot of people to how dysfunctional it actually all is. And the beautiful thing, and this is where I want to lean into Yvonne, is that we ought to be having the conversations that can point people in the direction. So, okay, now we learned that it's all a big mess, and then the matrix and the government, and we can name and blame and stigmatize a whole bunch of different elements, people, corporations, you name it. But for as long as we don't speak to the new life ways, how navigating with nature, basing our life's orientation in a syntropic way, as opposed to an entropic way, breaking everything down. No, bringing everything together, creating complexity so that we can start thriving together. That's the conversation that me and Yvonne have been sitting in, and Shay has been on for that with Yvonne as well. And that's the conversation we're having at Earth Heroes TV a lot, so that we can become that way shower of not only is it possible, it's happening, but these are also the steps that can be taken to move into the direction and out of the transition that we each all have made, out of this kind of confined concrete box mentality that was very cemented in for us through just being born into the Western world. Yeah.
I love it, Sovereign. Thanks for sharing, brother. So good, man. And yeah, Yvonne, that's going over to you again in this community. You know, like, I'd really love to hear your extrapolation on it, particularly, you know, moving forward as you know, you've been a really solid, stable, consistent pillar in the foundation of this community coming together and of this vision for the new earth. Moving forward, for people to have that invitation to come into the conversation and also to be a part of that community. Maybe you want to just elaborate a little bit more for those who are tuning in for the live, so they can get a sense just through the resonance of the words, what feels more aligned to their life's purpose.
Well, I love that you keep talking about the younglings, and of course, I agree with that, but it's not my role. So my role is to actually work with the end product of the education, right? The people that are the main people in our community are the people who have been educated, who have not been able to find their innate signature that lives within. And so what I strive for is to create this environment where they are they're invited to actually have a place where it's safe to go, well, so what would you do? What would you like to be and what would you like to do if you didn't have to go out and earn an income? And that's been so wonderful, because so many people have walked away from their workplaces because of what's been going on in the last couple of years. And then they're sitting there and they go, well, what will I do next? I know that Linda was the same, and Damian, suddenly found himself out of work, not because of this situation, but before that, because he was actually already made ready for now, so that he can now be of service to people. And I think we're all here on a soul contract. We've all got something that we're going to be using to take us forward into this new place of what, Shay, you talk about, this new light that's shining onto the earth plane. And so we're all changing. And this is igniting a spark within the people that have been educated. And we're saying, well, okay, so let's pretend that there is absolutely nothing to stop you. What is it in you that hasn't been fulfilled? And that's what I'm seeing with people like Damian and with Linda. They're suddenly going, oh my goodness, I can be what I've always wanted to be. And it is such a joy, because there is this beautiful environment where this is now possible. I just spent 2 hours with one of the community, his passion is to work with young, mainly young lads who have lost their way, who've fallen off the education system and have no passion, no motivation. And he's a bit of a Pied Piper as to steer them into to somewhere. And he's come to me because he said, I think that is what my role is. And I said, well, then now we need to prepare you for that role. So, because one of the things that I have really, really recognized, and we talked about it last week, it's about you need to walk your talk. So you cannot go to younglings and teach them. This is the problem. People have been teaching them things, but they're actually, how they used to say, if you can't do it, become a teacher. Right. So that's really what's been going on. It's all out of books. It's not out of practicality. They don't teach life skills. They don't teach you how to be the best of yourself. Just be the best for me. That's all. And if you're the best for me, that's all that I need from you. Well, that isn't the best for anybody else. Okay. We need to encourage younglings to be the best of themselves. And that comes from watching them and watching what they're good at, and then encourage them to be more of that. And yes, that is how the new education systems are going to be created. And I can see that around already, because there are people who have a soul plan to actually do that. That is their skill. That is their innate gift. So that's coming to fruition. My role is really with the people who have already gone through that system and have been stifled, as Damian said, have been put in that concrete box, and have been living, there's so many living dead walking around the streets. When I look at people in their, should I say 80s, maybe I should say 120s, I don't know, who are walking around and they're burdened and they've got sticks. And look, I'm not judging them. I just see their burden of life has absolutely stunted their growth. And I mean, look, Linda comes from healthcare in nursing, and Damian is in health now, and he knows what I'm. You all know what I'm talking about. Our bodies end up being burdened by the energy that we've been carrying for a lifetime, and that to me is the crime. When I see people like that who have the whole life squeezed out of them because of not living in the light, not living in passion, not living in joy, who have been given a pittance for their amazing contribution to life, that is criminal, and that has to stop. And that in this New Earth community is something that I'm absolutely so passionate about, that everyone has their gift, and so whatever I can do while there's a breath in my body, I will be there to support an environment where these seeds can grow and they can flourish. And it is wonderful. Linda is, why I asked her to come is because the change in her in the last few months has been ridiculous. And from someone who really was so self-damaging, and to somebody who doesn't give a damn, is all I want to do is shine my light within just a few months. And that's what I want to bring forth into the world, that we can all do that. And I come back to self saying we need to be willing. And then it takes courage. I live in courageous courts, that is a cosmic joke, but I actually do. Because it does take enormous courage. It's not for the faint-hearted. This is why you've called your brave new life. And we all of us here are brave, and we need to pat ourselves on the back, not from ego, but from joy and from the aliveness, because it's the deadening that we talk about, that the education systems, and I'm not blaming the people that actually present it to the children. It's the system behind it that tells them what they have to present. And I know so many teachers that feel, oh, if only I could have enough time with that child, or if only I could have enough time with that child. And of course, it hasn't been that way. And that is why it's so exciting that people are taking their children away, and they are creating new systems. The systems are being created. What I would really like to speak to is that each one of us is here for a reason during this time. And we have to step up. And whatever it is and how difficult it is, it doesn't matter. We are being asked to step forward, be reincarnated here at this time for a reason. And I remember when I first was told 35 years ago that I volunteered to be here, my response was I insane? But I'm still here. And insane or not, I decided that being willing was better than to resist. Because while I was resisting, the wheels kept falling off. So whatever it is in your heart that is calling you, set it free. And these New Earth communities that I'm encouraging people to start with your neighbor, with your friend. Come together. Do what Linda says. Open your front door and say, let's just sit and let's talk about what's in your heart. Stuff is all about, heart relating. But then what shall we do about it? Because just talking about it just keeps us going around in a circle. This is a time we need to activate. We need to activate a new earth somewhere for people to be able to see the contrast to the matrix. And one of the reasons I've started this series is to spread the word that we're the contrast. Come, we're the contrast. Here you can grow. Here you can be everything that you're meant to be, that people haven't allowed you to be. this is the place where you can set yourself free. Whatever your creativity is, it doesn't matter. And if you don't know, that doesn't matter. Just go around shining your light until it comes forward.
Mm.
That is the New Earth community that I hope, doing fairly well at creating around here and inspiring people, because I love humanity. I see them as the most beautiful flowers of the tree of life. And we've not been allowed to bloom. And it's time we did.
Amazing, Yvonne. Absolutely beautiful. So inspiring, so powerful. And yeah, I really admire you and just want to praise you and honor you for all the work that you do for humanity at this time, you know. So just to wrap it up, I'd love to hear maybe any last messages to the world from Linda and Damian. And they'll send a big love you and thank you and wish you all the best for your day. But if you had 30 seconds, Damian, what would your message to the world be at this point?
It would be to surround yourself with those that are on the same mission as you. So whatever your deepest heartfelt desires are and your beliefs, your true core beliefs, surround yourself with those people. There's a great Facebook post, and it's a picture of a pride of lions sauntering purposely through the jungle. And the caption reads, surround yourself with those who are on the same mission as you. You can't achieve your own change from within. Needs to be supported by community. So definitely reach out and find those people. Look for your tribe, because they are the ones that are going to support you and help you to become your best for you.
Thanks, Damian. I just reinforce that to be so true, Damian, that thing I would want people to know is that you are enough. Who you are, what you are, every part of you, you know, despite all your own judgments and your own criticisms, that you are enough and you do have enough to share with the world. And Damian's right in saying that you need the support, and the New Earth community, I know from my own experience, be it a short one, but that the New Earth community has given me the support, the love, the freedom, the blessing just to be me, and that's enough. And when you learn that you're enough, it becomes very overwhelming, and it just inspires me to you know, to remain in that connection and to share that with other people. So thank you, guys.
Beautiful.
Thank you too. Big love, guys. Thanks for tuning in. For all those people who are watching the live, really appreciate it. We've just dropped in the description in the comment section there if you want to, you know, be a part of these communities. Even if you're on the other side of the world, the Brave New Life online community just really empowers that soul to come alive, and it's your invitation to come and be a part of it. Join us, and you're all invited, and it's a beautiful space to land and be a part of. So Yvonne, thank you so much for the Ascension Wisdom TV platform that you bring to the world. It's so good. It's amazing. And Sovereign, it's you as well, mate. Thanks for everything that you do in this earth and this for the people and for the planet. And so lovely to meet you, Linda and Damian. I'm sure we'll get the chance to chat again.
And I'd really just like to say thank you to Damian and Linda for showing what it's like, how you can grow within the community that we've created, and that it can be done by you, by everyone that's listening. It can be done. And when you do it, we're growing a new earth together. Thank you so much.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Hey, guys.